Good afternoon, good morning, good day to you. Wherever you are, it is a good day for the final installment of our Spring Learning Collaborative here at ACU STAR Center of the Retention Academy. So welcome. I'm Suzanne Speer, and I am the Director of Workforce Development at ACU, and it is my pleasure to be here with you today along with the rest of the STAR Center faculty. So I'm joined today by Ann Hogan and Mariah Blake. I did want to put on here the rest of the guest faculty that we had join us during our previous weeks and sessions. So Michelle Barcho from 3RNet, Fina Chemsetti, Dr. Chemsetti was from CHC Inc., along with Anna Rogers as well from CHC Inc. And then we also had some folks from JSI, John Snow Incorporated. Jeremy Make was with us during one of our previous sessions. So just some webinar housekeeping today. As usual, we are recording this and we will post it on the discussion board afterwards. If you miss some of it or would just like to go back and listen to it again, feel free to ask questions as we go along, and sit back, relax, and enjoy this last session of the Retention Academy. As always, if you have a question, you can raise your hand in the control bar on the right of your screen to alert Mariah that you have a question. You can also either use the chat or questions box in the control bar to send your question to our team, and then we will get it answered for you at the end of our presentation. If you think of a question afterwards or you are having any technical difficulties, feel free to email Mariah at mblake@clinicians.org. So just to review our Retention Academy goals. So during this process, we really hoped that you all had gone through all of the things that could lead to physician and clinician burnout, and during that time really built some processes and strategies to combat burnout at your health center. And really just along the way, just build some relationships, not only with the fellow members of your cohort, the members of the faculty here, as well as the members of your team. So sometimes getting these processes going really takes your relationship with your coworkers to another level as you begin to build those processes and strategies to combat physician burnout. So as we have gone through the work of addressing the subject of retention, we have identified influences that lead to burnout. And along the way, you have created action plans. So each week we have, or rather every other week, we have gone through and assigned some homework that really gets you to think about these influences that create burnout in your providers, and then really creating, so that homework is getting you to create some action plans for addressing those things that might lead to burnout. And then through those assignments and through those actionable items and action plans, you have created real change at your health center or are working towards putting together real change at your health center. So we looked at 5 influences that can contribute to burnout. And certainly this is not an exhaustive list that we went through. I'm sure there are a lot more out there, but these are the 5 that we focused on during our 11 prior weeks together during this learning collaborative. So we looked at recruiting for retention. Michelle Varcho went through that with us. Taking things a little bit out of order, but the role of EHR. So we had the folks from JSI and Jeremy Make talk to us about EHR and its role in burnout. The folks from CHC Inc. talked to us about team-based care and how that can lead to burnout, but it can also be used as an asset to really mitigate burnout and utilizing the folks the members of your team to the fullest capacity. We also looked at some administrative structures for retention, as well as the role of management and communication. So when Michelle Bartow kicked off our Retention Academy with our first content webinar, she really gave us a fantastic presentation about recruiting for retention. She went over the 4R plan for the recruitment process, which included planning and preparation, sourcing candidates, and a follow-up and follow-through as you go along through the process. Excuse me. One of the things she emphasized is that retention starts with recruitment. So you don't want to hire the first person that walks in the door or answers your ad. Waiting until you find a candidate that aligns with your mission and organization can really go a long way to retaining your providers that you hire. It will cost you more in the long run to replace that provider who isn't the right fit or doesn't align with your mission or organization anyway. So you definitely want to hire the right person the first time if you can. She also took us through how to write a compelling job posting and, targeting a candidate in your ad based on your community strengths and why someone would want to work for your organization. So she took us through focusing on the 4 areas of belonging, fulfillment, esteem, and prosperity when writing your job ad. So during her homework, also took you through writing job ads for different links for different types of media. So whether it was your website or social media, including Twitter and Facebook. And we really hope that helped you think about the elements of the ad, but also how to change up your ads just a little bit to fit the type of outlet that you're using for that job posting. Michelle also went over enhancing your job posting by making it visual. So linking it to your website, simple YouTube videos, and photos. She also went through posting on social media, as I mentioned, as it can be an important part of the overall recruitment process as well. So then our second webinar was on team-based care. So Dr. Chanam Sethi from CHC Inc. was with us, and she spoke to us about the role of team-based care and burnout. This is a compelling topic and is definitely one that is not only emerging, but is in the forefront as care models are ever changing. So she first went over leveraging the core team. So they refer to this as the medical providers, registered nurses, and medical assistants they have there on staff. She spoke about utilizing the skills both the medical assistant and registered nurses bring to the team and how they work together efficiently and effectively to relieve some of the workload from the medical provider, rather. She went through some of the standing orders that they have there at CHC Inc. to allow their visits, each individual visit, and their overall days to go smoothly. When it comes to leveraging the extended care team, Dr. Chanam Sethi spoke about behavioral health warm handoffs, if you will, and I put that in air quotes, for those patients that a primary care provider sees that have the immediate behavioral health needs. So how they can actually get them seen immediately and how they work through all members of their team, not just the primary care team, and how they work that in that particular instance. She spoke about how they stagger their patient visits and being proactive about how they schedule their patients. So really being involved with how they set up their day and, that's something that they do through their EHR, which obviously Jeremy Mate covered in his presentation. But she really made a compelling case about how they focus and how they leverage their day to take the best care of their team, but also really utilizing the best resources that they have in their extended care team as well. They have also built a support system, for their providers there at CHC Inc. And they do this in several ways. So they work on professional development. They use Project Echo for those complex cases or trouble spots for individual cases, professional development in the form of CME support, and also leadership development. So those folks that they have identified as leaders, they are able to get them some leadership development. They also support their providers by allowing them to teach. So really building in that dedicated precepting time for those providers that have a passion for teaching. They also have built a system of support through research. So they are also home to the Weitzman Institute, as well as having some QI research as well as QI. And that wrapped up the presentation on team-based care. So the next facet or item that can lead to burnout is EHR. And Jeremy Make had a fantastic presentation on the role of EHR and how it really can impede the joy in practice and also lead to provider burnout. He pointed out how it's important to take a look at provider burnout as the cost of a physician vacancy, of a one-year physician vacancy, can cost the health center $1.2 million. I know that Anne, in one of her presentations, she covered that, and that really stuck out to us as something that, that's a huge number. And so helping the issue of provider burnout as it relates to EHR is really important. So we really want to do everything we can to minimize provider burnout as it relates in all facets, but also in EHR. So some of the concerns he cited about EHRs are the ones I'm sure you have all heard at your centers before. So some of the things would include, I spend too much time looking at the computer and I can't build relationships with my patients. Some folks have to use two EHRs simultaneously since they don't talk to each other, if you will, back and forth. And then documentation, that's a huge one that I know everyone is nodding their heads and nodding their head in agreement that, all of the documentation requires time, and the time spent doing the documentation takes away from work-life balance. And they spend, many, many hours on the nights and the weekends finishing up those required documents that they have to do through their EHR. So what can we do to provide solutions to those issues? Jeremy pointed out some places to start. We're, implementing a single sign-on feature for all of your systems. He also mentioned creating a more user-friendly and intuitive interface. He also mentioned another possible solution would be to work on processes. So creating best practices for workflows and allow time during the provider's day to actually catch up on their EMR instead of using time outside of the working hours and the working days to catch up on EHR. So another thing he mentioned, and I know it was a really, we had some questions surrounding that, using MAs as scribes or hiring clerical support to do data entry tasks, and how he went through, how folks actually integrated scribes as a part of their care team, or how folks trained medical assistants to actually use or be in that scribe role, and and how that really helped folks, how that can really help folks just speed along the process of the actual visit, but then also, again, take away that time that the provider would use on documentation. So, and then, he really gave us some great places to start. He talked about using the IHI method to returning joy in the workplace by reducing or minimizing the role of EHR burdens. You can do that to help in your health centers as it relates to EHR. So then we moved on to administrative structures, and Ann Hogan was with us for the first of 2 webinars and 2 office hours, and she focused her first webinar on the administrative structures that can lead to burnout, but also can help with retention. So looking through compensation and benefits, it seems really obvious that that would be something that you would do on the front end and hiring folks, but it can really lead to either retention or folks actually leaving your health center. So make sure that when you are looking at retention, you don't leave your compensation and benefits out. I know that Ann went over a lot of benefits that you can incorporate into your overall compensation package that don't cost a lot of money, but that really get creative. I know she mentioned for our folks in rural areas, giving the provider a year subscription to Amazon Prime, where they can, if they're not close to shopping, they can actually have things delivered to their door instead of going out. Not only does that help in rural areas, but it also helps with just time. So, time that they would be spending doing their everyday ordinary shopping that they can actually just have come to their door. Along with the compensation benefits, you really want to look at retention incentives. So what types of things are you doing from a financial aspect for folks that stay? If you have a provider that has been on board for 3 years or 5 years or 10 years, how can you compensate them for staying on board and for their longevity and for their dedication to not only the patients that they're serving, but also the organization? She took us through some leadership and growth opportunities that you want to look at when it comes to administrative structures for retention. So leadership. Are you giving them the tools that they need to be a great leader? So just because someone either has an MD or a DO or any other letters behind their name, you want to make sure that you're supporting them in their leadership if you're giving them those opportunities. So identifying folks that could be potential leaders, giving them leadership opportunities, and then also giving them support in those new roles and those new things that you are asking of them. Growth opportunities. So do you have places for not only your providers to grow, but also your frontline staff to grow? Do you have a plan in place of a sort of a stair step that folks can walk along or strive to, or things that they can achieve as they stay and you retain them as both providers as well as all of your frontline staff? Work-life balance. Something else that seems sort of it's definitely a buzz phrase, and we want you to be thinking about constantly thinking about that work-life balance. As we get new providers on our staff, they are, the younger that they, the newer they are, I guess I should say, in their career, the more they are striving for that work-life balance and really keeping an open mind to those part-time providers, that job sharing, 4-day-a-week structure on a schedule. Really, all of those things go a long way to retaining the providers that you have and really give them the work-life balance that they're looking for. So definitely don't leave that out when you are looking at the role that the structures and the administrative structures that you have. They really are important when it comes to both burnout and also retention. And finished up the last webinar we had with management and communication and how that relates to retention and also burnout. So, really the big takeaway from that particular webinar was communication. How are you communicating with your providers and your teams? When are you communicating? How often are you communicating? And that communication is a two-way street. You not only want to be communicating what is happening from a management perspective down, but also, so it's not only a top-down approach, but make sure that you are allowing ample opportunities for folks to express just their concerns, their challenges, the things that are going well for them. So make sure you are allowing them opportunities to let them know what's going well and what you can improve from a management perspective. Ask them, and along those lines, ask them what would make their job better. So making sure that you are communicating all of those things. What could you be doing better from a management perspective to make their job better, their job easier? What can you do to, make their lives easier on a day-to-day basis? Make sure that you are communicating your mission. And while, again, that sounds very simple and sounds very basic, make sure that you are emphasizing the mission of your health center while you're there. I know that, during National Health Center Week, that's out there and that is something that you're focusing on, but really all year long, make sure that you are really focusing, having your staff focus all the time on really why you're there. As mentioned during the administrative structures, really make sure that you are investing in your staff. And for those folks that on your team that are managers, make sure that you are teaching them how to manage. And then another thing from a management perspective would be, recognizing people, whether it's a big ceremony that you have, once a year during an outing, a team outing that you have, or just a, employee of the month or a team of the month, or just a pat on the back from management where you actually go and, see folks face to face if you have more than one site. Recognizing the accomplishments and the efforts that your team is doing on a day-to-day basis is just so important. So, communicate, be as efficient at it as possible, do it often and well. So as we have gone through all of the 5 areas of organizational influences to burnout, we've heard a lot about what we can do to really decrease burnout and improve our processes. So now what? For those that have seen the movie Finding Nemo, all of Nemo's friends try to come and find him, and they get stuck in a dentist's office fishbowl. Well, they get out of the fishbowl, but then they're looking at themselves and talking to themselves and going, now what? So now that we've gone through all of these things, now where are you? Where do you go from here? What are your next steps as you finish this learning collaborative and move out and go about your way at your health center? So now that we have identified the influences, we want to create those action plans that we spoke about at the very beginning of not only this webinar, but also the webinar at the very beginning 11 weeks ago. So we want to create those action plans. So as I mentioned previously, so each homework assignment is part of that action plan. So make sure that you go through those action plans, or excuse me, those homework assignments, and turn them into action plans, then thereby creating a real change at your health center. So make sure that you utilize those homework assignments and those action plans and integrate them into your systems at your health center. What else can you do? You can contact your accountability partner. So make sure that you contact, if you are going through those assignments and creating your action plans and you come across a stumbling block, reach out to your accountability partner. Obviously, you can certainly reach out to any member of the STAR Center team as well. Revisit the discussion board. So Mariah has created a tab that has all of the resources, all of the webinars, and all of the homework assignments there, so you don't have to search throughout the week. And that discussion board will be left open, so you can log on at any time and post a question if you want to post it to the team, the members of the cohort as we go along. Visit our resources at chcworkforce.org. We have a ton of free resources there as you look to improve not only your retention, but also we also have a bunch of resources in regards to recruitment there as well. Most of you probably already subscribe to our newsletter, but make sure you do that to stay in touch with us as after this learning collaborative is over. So lastly, if you would please complete the evaluation. So this helps us know what we did well and the things that we can also improve for the future. So I believe Mariah has put that link in the chat box. And please, please, please just go ahead and click that link as we finish up our webinar today. And you can just mark that off your to-do list and make sure that you just go ahead and finish that today. As always, I mentioned before, chcworkforce.org is our website. You have all of our contact information, but if all else fails, feel free to contact us at info@chcworkforce.org. And I have also included our phone number at ACU there as well. So congratulations, you have made it to the end. Gold star for you. All kidding aside, congratulations. This has been a 12-week journey that you have been on, and you have put the hard work in and you have stuck with it. And we know that's not easy, and with all the demands that you all have on you, and we really appreciate you joining us for Wednesday afternoons for the last 3 months. It's been a pleasure having you, and we hope that you have found it useful as well. So I think we are just about at time, but if there anything that, any questions that you have right now or as we go along, feel free to email any member of the STAR Center team that you have, or Mariah, any of us. But we would just, again, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to all of our guest faculty, as well as to Anne and to Mariah for just a great 12 weeks and a great learning collaborative. So everyone take care, and we will be in touch soon. And don't forget to take the survey before we wrap up today. The link is on the chat box. So take care, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.